I want you to think about something. The same water that was on Earth when dinosaurs roamed the land is the same water that you drink today. You could also be drinking the same water that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln might have drank. But how? How is that possible? The water cycle is what makes that possible. The water cycle is the continuous movement of water throughout Earth and Earth's atmosphere. There is only 3% of fresh water available on Earth's surface. So that means that 97% of the water on Earth's surface is salt water. So 3% of fresh water is available, and 2% of that is frozen in glaciers. So there's only 1% of fresh water available on Earth's surface for us to drink. That's crazy. The sun powers the water cycle. We talked previously that the sun powers food chains because it gives the producers the energy they need to produce their own food. The sun is what's going to power the water cycle. And even when the sun is not shining, the water cycle is still going. So a single drop of water, just one little tiny drop of water, can change states of matter. It can travel into the sky and underground. It can travel through rivers. It can stay in the ocean and go inside of plants. So let's talk about some important vocabulary we're going to need this week. Transpiration. Transpiration is when water vapor is released from the leaves of plants. And water vapor is what happens when liquid water gets heated. Think about boiling water on the stove. You can see that water vapor when it might stick to the microwave when you're boiling water on the stove. So water vapor is being released from the leaves of the plants because it's being heated by the sun. Evaporation occurs when the heat from the sun causes liquid water to become water vapor, and that water vapor is going to rise. So think about, you have seen evaporation. If there's a puddle outside, you come outside a few hours later and the puddle's gone. Where did the water go? It evaporated. The sun heated up that water, caused it to turn into water vapor, and that water vapor is now rising into the atmosphere. Condensation occurs when water vapor gets cooler and changes back to liquid water. So that water from the puddle, it got heated up, it turned into water vapor, and it's rising into the atmosphere. The higher it gets into the atmosphere, the cooler it gets, and that's going to change that water vapor back into liquid water. Condensation is the step in which clouds are formed because those drops of liquid water are now going to attach to dust and other things in the atmosphere and create clouds. So once those clouds get too heavy, they have too much moisture in them, that's when precipitation happens. And precipitation occurs when water falls from the sky. And there are 4 main types of precipitation. We have rain, snow, sleet, and hail. And the temperature of the atmosphere determines which type of precipitation is going to fall. Runoff. Runoff is going to happen when excess water flows to a water source. So water that is not absorbed into the ground is considered runoff. Puddles are considered runoff. Or water that makes its way to a river or a lake or stream or even the ocean is considered to be runoff. Accumulation. Accumulation occurs when precipitation is stored, such as in a lake, river, or ocean, somewhere where there is a lot of water. That is considered to be accumulation. Let's look at some different things that drops of water can do. Let's start with precipitation, whether it be rain, snow, sleet, or hail. 2 things can happen. It might fall into a body of water, or it might fall straight onto Earth's surface. Water might be consumed by humans and animals, or that water might be frozen and stored within a glacier. Then comes runoff. On the ground, that water might become runoff and flow into a river, an ocean, or a lake. Transpiration. The water is going to enter plants through their roots. Those plants use the water during their photosynthesis, and then that water is released during transpiration. So when the sun is shining on those plants, making the water in it warmer, it's getting released through transpiration. We can't see that with just looking at it, but there are ways that we'll be able to see that transpiration is happening. Now for evaporation. Water returns to Earth's atmosphere during evaporation, and water evaporates or becomes water vapor due to the heat from the sun. So, where do you think the most evaporation occurs? It would be in the ocean because you have all that water, it's going to evaporate. Not all of it, because that would be kind of weird, but it's going to have the most evaporation coming from the ocean. Condensation. During condensation, that water vapor cools and it becomes liquid water. And like I said before, it's going to find dust particles in the atmosphere and join together to create clouds. Now we're back to precipitation. That water is going to fall to Earth as precipitation and the cycle begins again. So, water cycle, it never stops. Even when the sun's not shining, even at night, it is still going on.